What's up guys, it's me again, CrushedPixel. Some of you wanted a tutorial how to write an MCEdit filter, and I thought since there is none on the internet so far, and since writing an MCEdit filter is pretty simple, I thought, yeah, just why don't you make a tutorial like this yourself? And here we go. This tutorial is for total beginners, so if you don't know anything about programming, you're going to learn here. And it's really from the basics to some more challenging things you have to do when programming. And what we're going to do first is we're going to create a filter for MCEdit which covers nearly everything that you can do when you write an MCEdit filter. So what I'm going to show you when I program this filter is 90% of everything that I ever used to write an MCEdit filter, so it covers nearly everything. And what this filter is going to do is it creates a block from a given material at a given Y position, and yeah, on top of this block there is a villager, and you can decide what name the villager has, and you can decide what profession he has, so whether he's brown or white or green and so on. And yeah, you may think, what is such a filter good for? And the answer is nothing, but you can learn how to write filters with this. And this is what we're going to create today. It's just all the options for our filter. And let's just think, what does MCEdit do once you head to the filter section after you selected a block? What it is, it wants to display a name for the filter somewhere in the left corner. So what we'll do is we write display name. I'll just zoom in for you so you can read it better. Display name, and then in quotation signs, in quote signs, I don't know how it's called because I'm not native English, we write the name of the filter, how it's going to be displayed later. In my case it's a tutorial filter, because you can of course use any name for this. It just has to be in these quote signs. And what this does is it tells MCEdit that the variable display name is a string, which means a text of any length, and which is called a tutorial filter. And MCEdit knows what to do with this variable and puts it as the filter name. And variables are maybe the essential thing about programming. And yeah, it's just a main variable that MCEdit uses to load the filter. You just have to remember this one. What I always do in the beginning of my filter, like totally on top, I write MCEdit filter by CrushedPixel and then a link, because so people who read the source code just know that I made the filter. Maybe somebody wonders about that. Okay, the next thing MCEdit wants to do is, once we selected a tutorial filter, it creates the options for this filter. And in our case, the options will be the Y position of the block, the block type, whether there should be a villager or not, then the villager profession, which will be a drop-down menu, and the villager name. Okay, so first we write inputs, which is a type of list variable, which is defined by MCEdit as well. And inside of this inputs variable we can define all of the inputs, and the first one we're going to have is a number field, number input, because of the Y position. So you just get down one line and hit tab. So yeah, I don't know what it's called, but just that you get to here. By the way, the program that I'm using is Notepad++. You don't have to compile anything, and I just created a .py file, which stands for Python, and you just insert that file here in your filters folder. Okay. Yeah, and in the inputs you give that input a name, like Y position in our case. Then you hit comma, and now you define the type of input just by writing a number, for example. And if you've got that number here, MCEdit knows that there will be a number field. And the number you write there is the default number, and that's going to be displayed if you don't change anything. But since Minecraft only has a Y position from 1 to 255, what we're going to do is we put this in another bracket and write 1, 1, 255, so 255. And what this does is it just this is the default number, it's the Y position 1, and 1 to 255 are the numbers you can choose from. So you can just choose any number from 1 to 255, but no higher or lower number. Because if you want to create a block at Y position 0, this just won't work, because, or at 265, for example, it just won't work because Minecraft can handle this and MCEdit can't either. Okay, so this is the first type, it's the number form. Then we hit comma, and we're ready for our next input. In our case, it is the block selection for the block the villager stands on, and block to create. I don't know what I'm going to call this, or block, just material. That's what I'm going to call it. And what we do then, we gave this input a name, and now we want to define it that it is a selection box from which you can choose any block. So what we're going to do, so you can just decide on which block the villager is going to stand. So what we're going to do is we write alpha materials dot stone. And what this does, it takes just one of, you can decide from all of the alpha materials, which is basically all the materials that are used in Minecraft at all. And the default material is stone. If you would make dirt or grass, it would use this block as a default block. Like here it uses the 1 as a default number, but we want stone as a default block for now. But since MCEdit doesn't use this alpha materials very often, we have to import the alpha materials first, so MCEdit knows these. And what we're going to write is just to the top of our filter file, we're going to write from pymc level dot materials import alpha materials. So it takes from the pymc level file and the alpha materials, and these files are somewhere hidden in the source code of MCEdit. And yeah, because the filter MCEdit wants to load as few, let me just call it operations as possible, and therefore it doesn't import every configuration or operation, and so we have to import that one manually. What this is good for is just it causes way shorter loading times for MCEdit and for filters in general, so it's pretty good that we have to import this. It's not just annoying like you may think. But yeah, and what I wanted to say too, if you put these hashtags before anything, before any line, the line will become obsolete, which means MCEdit just ignores the line and it's only for the person who reads the source code. So in my case this is green now, and it means the filter wouldn't get that custom name because I put a hashtag before it. Okay, our next input is going to be a checkbox whether we want their villager to be created or not. And so we're just going to write create villager, and then we can decide whether the checkbox should be checked by default or not checked by default. If we want it to be checked, we just write true. If we don't want it to be checked, we write false. But in our case, it makes more sense if it's true by default. And true and false are booleans, which means that it has no value. It can just be true or false. And in this case, it creates a checkbox. Later, it can be used for some more complicated things when you're programming something. Okay, the next input we want to have is the name of the villager. So write villager name. And now we want to have a text input, which means a string, like this, a tutorial filter, this gray one here is a string, these ones are strings too. And so you can input anything for the name of the villager without any restriction. And so what we're going to do is we write the next thing in other brackets. You always have to look if you close every bracket you open, like, and you see if the according brackets once you put the cursor next to one, because they get colored red by Notepad++. And yeah, so what we write in here is a string and then a comma and value equals. Okay, this may not make that much sense to you, but we also could just write string like here, but then MCEdit would by default write input string here as a default, like not one like in our numbers or stone like for the block selection, but it would just write input string here, because we don't want that, because input string here is a pretty stupid name for a villager. We write this value equals behind, and for example, if we want George as a default name for the villager, we just write George, or if we want to have nothing there, we just leave it like this. But in my case, I want him to be Patrick, maybe Patrick. Yeah, that's a nice default name for the villager. Okay, so this is our text input, and last but not least, we want a drop-down menu, and this is something more complicated, as you may have guessed, because we must define all of the choices you can make in that drop-down menu. So I'm going to name it Villager Profession. And before we can call all of the drop-down menu and all of its choices, we must first define them. And so what we're going to do now is we create a new list, like the input list, and you can give it any name you want. You just have to call it then later with the same name. And I'm going to call mine professions, obviously. And what we write then is an equal sign, and this type of bracket, I don't know what it's called, I really don't know, but yeah, that's the type of a bracket we want here, and we're going to just close it below like this, which we can do with the inputs here too. Yeah, and now inside of this professions list we can define all of the choices you can make at our drop-down menu later. So what we're going to do is we write brown, double point, and 0. I don't know if it's called double point actually. Maybe this may sound stupid, but I'm just literally translating it from German. Okay, our first choice is brown, or it's going to be in a different order later because it's random, but yeah, just don't think about this yet. And you may wonder what the number behind the string of your choice is later. This number is what variable it outputs for you later when you do something with the output. So if you select brown, it gives you back the number 0 later. You're going to work with the number 0, but I'm just going to copy all of the professions with the which means just the drop-down menu, because I already once made it and I don't know the IDs of all of the villagers. Okay, so white gives you back the number 1, purple the number 2, black the number 3, and so on. And I added something which I think is great to learn for you too, the random feature. So we're going to have a randomize option if the villager should have a random color or not. So if you can choose every villager should be brown, every villager should be white, purple, and so on, or you can choose every villager has a random color. Okay, and now we just want to get the professions drop down menu over here. So what we write is tuple, and I'm not exactly sure, yes, then professions, which is just the name of the list you defined over here. If you called it like jobs, you're going to write jobs.keys, but in our case it's professions. And then you open, close, close, and close some brackets. These two belong to the keys function, which is used in Python at overall. It's a little bit complicated for you to understand this if you're totally new to programming. So you just write it this way, and yeah, we are already done with all of the inputs. You must always remember that you put these commas behind every input, but not behind the last one, because after this you close the list anyways, so you shouldn't make MCEdit expect another input after it. So that's it for the first tutorial. No, of course not. What I'm going to add to the end of the filter is something totally useless actually. It's just that I can show you what I made, what we created just together. And what this here means, it just makes a perform thing after this. What is written after this perform line will be executed by MCEdit later, and we have to have this here, so else I can show you the options. And what this does, it just defines a variable like up here, but it's just something totally obsolete. It does really nothing. It's just that I can show you the filter now. And so I open the MCEdit tutorial world, select the block, hit filter, and here we go. It's a tutorial filter like we named it here. And we can decide what Y position we want to have. You see the default one is 1. And if we want to add something higher than 255, you see it becomes 255 instantly. Same, it just becomes 255, and I can scroll and so on, but not above 255. And the same, I can't scroll below 1, which is just what we defined here. Then the second one is the material, obviously. And here we can decide between every material. It's not possible to make the player or the user just decide between several materials. It's every material or no materials. If you want just like 5 or 6 materials from which the user can choose off, you should make a drop down menu like here. It works totally the same way then as this one here does. Yes, the next one is the checkbox, because we wrote true here. It's checked by default. Then the villager name, you see it worked. Value is Patrick. You can input anything here, for example George W. Bush. This is enough. And then we can decide from the drop-down menu which villager profession we want to have. Unfortunately, you can't tell MCEdit in which order the professions are put. I don't know why this is. It's just maybe, I don't know, maybe some bad coded code. You see it's not even sorted by the alphabet. That's pretty stupid. But anyway, that's it. If you now hit filter, you see nothing happens, but it just sets a test variable to 1, which means it does really nothing. And in this episode you learned how to create all of these inputs. Go ahead and just tell me in the comments what I could do better about these tutorials, and I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time when we're going to actually create a block at a given Y position from a given material as we made the inputs here. So see you then. Bye.